What's up, guys? Today I just wanted to share with you a really big thing that helped me in college and high school when I was an athlete. And I would say this is the number one thing I've ever done for my mental health. I've been doing this ever since high school, and I filled out a lot of notebooks during that time. So yeah, it's just something that I wanted to share because it's helped me out a lot over the years. So I don't know about you guys, but I like to watch the top 10 things I can't live without by GQ. And when I watch the athletes give their top 10, I noticed that a lot of them journal too. For example, Yuri Prochazka, Tony Gonzalez, Ilia Topuria, and Harry Kane. When I watched their top 10 things they can't live without, all of them put their journals on it. And also just two people I also know the journal is Michael Phelps. I know he kept a diary. And whenever I go onto Sean O'Malley's Snapchat story, he's always journaling. And I know there's many other athletes that journal, but these are just the ones I know that do. But yeah, a lot of athletes seem to journal. And it's not just athletes who journal, there's other successful people that do too. For example, Bruce Lee, Thomas Edison, Leonardo da Vinci, the former emperor of Rome, Marcus Aurelius, Charles Darwin, and Albert Einstein. All of these people journal. And I know association doesn't always mean causation, but it just seems, a lot of successful people, they seem to journal. So these are just some reasons on why I think you should journal. First thing, I think it's the number one thing you could do when you're anxious. If you're like me and you're an overthinker, just putting it down on a piece of paper can really help a lot because it's like you put it in a third person view instead of just letting it sit in your head and grow into something bigger than it actually is. When it's on paper, it's kind of just like, this is what it is, nothing more, nothing less. Another thing is keeping a good mindset. If you're an athlete, you might be dealing some stuff with a little bit of bumps and bruises, or sometimes you're not where you want to be on the depth chart. You could want to be starting, but you're a second string, or you're sharing playing time with someone, or just random stuff when you're a student athlete, like the workload you have to deal with, or some teachers you don't like, or a girl you're talking to is stressing you out. It's really easy to get negative, so the journaling just helps you make sure that you're keeping a good mindset through it all. Now, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes after practice, I'll just be there with a friend and eventually we'd have a deep talk. And afterwards, we would just talk about things, sharing with our goals or stuff we missed from back home when I was at college and everyone was from a different area of America. And for me, after conversations like that, I'd always feel really refreshed, a little bit extra motivated, but you're not always going to have someone to talk about your problems with. So journaling is just something that's always going to be there for you whenever you want to talk about something. And since no one's going to look inside your journal, you could go as deep as you want or talk about whatever you want. One reason why I'm really grateful that I journaled ever since high school is because whenever I want to, I could just look inside my journals and see what was going through my mind. Like, photos and videos are great, but it's really different just being able to open up a book and see exactly what you were thinking at the time. Like, it's really the same thing as going inside a time machine and just reliving how you felt at that moment. And you kind of get to see how far you've come from when you were journaling that time. That's why it's really important to write the date of all your journal entries. It's also the perfect place to talk about ideas. Like, whenever you have an idea, sometimes you don't always feel comfortable sharing it with other people until later on. But with journaling, you could talk about as much as you want without actually having to talk about it with everyone. And I don't know about this one, but supposedly it makes you a better speaker. Ever since I started this YouTube channel, I've been doing some research on how to speak better. And a lot of people suggest reading a lot, writing a lot, and studying other speakers. And of course, there's other things they suggest, but the common one that everyone suggests seems to be writing, reading, and studying other people. So these are what the professionals like Jordan Peterson suggest. And yeah, apparently journaling is really good at getting better at speaking. But I personally don't know because, I've been journaling for a while and, I don't really think I'm the best speaker. So yeah, this is just what they say. Now, these are just 5 of my favorite things to journal about. I used to write about these things all the time when I was playing football. And now that I'm training MMA, I still do these things occasionally. I really should do these more often though. So first thing is just reminding yourself of your goals. If you're a student athlete, it's really easy to get distracted by things like your schoolwork, girls that you're talking to and that are stressing you out, or partying, or just the shenanigans that comes with college football or college athletics, like, struggling for playing time, dealing with injuries, dealing with coaches you don't really get along with, which I have some tips for. I'll probably make a video later on how to get along with your coach. So yeah, there's just a lot of shenanigans that goes on, so you could lose sight of your goals during all of that. But journaling about your goals really helps you remind yourself of them and really remind yourself like why you're there in college training every day. Next is making quotas for yourself for practice and just saying your intentions for practice. I heard about this a long time before I started doing it, but I started doing it because during spring training, where we were just lifting weights, running, and doing one-on-ones, I was struggling to make plays in one-on-ones. So one day I just decided to write down I want 2 pass breakups during one-on-ones and 2 legit pass breakups, so I put my hand on the receiver and the hand on the ball. And I was struggling with that all spring or all summer, I forgot which one. But then I'll just write it down in my notebook before practice, and I was finding a lot more success doing that. The first time I did that, I went from getting like 0 proper PBUs, like I'd still break up the pass, but I'll just like swat at their hands without actually getting an eye on the ball and the hand on the ball. But once I started writing it down, I noticed there was a clear correlation in how much better I'll do during practice. And I don't know enough to explain why that is, but I think it has something to do with setting the intention in your mind and, your body reacting to what your mind wants. I'm not sure, you'd have to do your own research on that, but I could confidently say it does help when you just write down what you want out of practice. And it doesn't always have to be goals during practice, like it doesn't have to be quotas, it could just simply be your intentions. Like right now, I just came out from wrestling practice, and I'm new to wrestling, so I'm still struggling to get takedowns and stuff, so I didn't say I want to get this many takedowns. But I did write down what I want to get out of the practice, like I want to learn what I'm struggling with exactly and just be mindful of it so that I know what to ask the coach whenever I see him next. But yeah, right now I'm just struggling a lot with getting my takedown reversed. Like I'll get in and get them off their feet, but then they'll reverse the takedown and for somehow I'll be the one on bottom. So yeah, that's what I'll ask my coach next time I see him. But yeah, just writing down what you want out of practice goes a long way. Another thing is making plans. Like let's say you're not where you want to be on the depth chart, like you're second string and you want to be starting, or let's say you just get injured. It could feel like a really big mountain to climb when it's just sitting in your head, especially if you're an overthinker. But when you write it down and make clear steps on what to do, the road to success seems a lot more clear and like less scary. It's like having a map with directions to your destination instead of just memorizing where you need to go. So yeah, when I hurt my ankle, I was stressing out a lot, but then in my journal I just wrote down, okay, I'm gonna wait till I'm able to move it without pain, and once I'm able to do that, I'm gonna try walking, and once I'm able to do that, I'm gonna try a light jog. After that, I'll try jumping in the pool so that I'm lighter and I don't put as much strain on my ankle. Then after that, I'll do light hops above ground. Then after that, I'll try not jogging, but, almost sprinting, but not full speed. After that, I'll start sprinting. After that, I'll start going laterally. After that, I'll start doing my DB breaks, like half speed. After that, full speed. And, later on, I'll try one-on-one half speed. And before I know, I'll be back in the field playing. And when I wrote that down, I felt a lot more comfortable versus just having it in my head and being like, damn, I have to do so much. I can't even walk right now. I'm stressing. And, letting my mind go in a downward spiral. So yeah, just writing out the plan helps put your mind at ease. Now the fourth thing is something you already do. If you play football, your coach has probably given you a notebook to write down what you did good and what you did bad every practice, along with the proper plays and whatnot. But the thing with that is, if you write it in your football notebook, you kind of have to share it with the whole team. And I don't know about your coach, but my coach used to go through our notebooks at the end of the season to see what we were writing down. And technical stuff is fine to put in that notebook, but there's some things that I kind of want to keep to myself, like what was going through my head, or sometimes knowing that my coach is going to read it. I'm not 100% honest, but if I write on my own notebook, I could be as honest as I want. I could talk about whatever I want, and I don't have the fear of, my coach reading it or the whole team seeing what I have to say. And of course, you shouldn't be self-conscious, but we're human and whatnot. But yeah, it's just a well-known fact. If you're trying to get better at something, you need to analyze how you did after every practice. Something that one of my favorite NFL players used to do, Tom Brady. And the last thing is just writing down things that you're grateful for. So with being a student athlete and just being an athlete in general, there's going to be a lot of stuff you have to deal with, and it's really easy to get sad or negative or, even depressed. But people say all depression is, or all being sad is wanting something that you don't have. And being grateful is literally the exact opposite. It's just being glad that you have something. And there's some really crazy studies you could search up about what gratitude does to people's brains. Like some really, really crazy findings. I'm not able to articulate the studies, but there's people that can, that you should search up. So there is solid evidence for it, but I could just say from personal experience, if I'm sad about something or I'm feeling a little bit negative, just writing down a couple things I'm really grateful for improves my mood significantly. And I don't know if I'm going to release it before this video, but I just made a video on stoicism, which kind of talks about, it doesn't matter how you feel, you should just do it anyway regardless, which I totally agree with. But just having a good mood helps significantly. Of course, good or bad mood, you still have to go to training, you still have to do what you gotta do. But there's some studies that show that having a good mood helps you be more productive and also does things like it's easier for you to resist temptations. But yeah, being in a good mood makes things a lot easier. And it's something I personally need to work on because I'm not always in the best mood, so yeah, I should really take my own advice. So these are just some other things that are really awesome to journal about too. Like I said before, it's the perfect place to talk about ideas. In fact, before I started this YouTube channel, I was journaling about it a lot. I didn't really feel comfortable telling people because, I think people would have found it weird. So yeah, just journaling gave me a really safe space to talk about it and come up with ideas without having to actually tell anyone. Another thing to journal about is people you respect and why. If you're an athlete, you could probably do this with athletes or other successful people like entrepreneurs and scientists and whatnot. Also doing it with family members or friends you really respect. But I always like to do it with fictional characters too. For example, there's a movie I really liked as a kid called Wallace and Gromit: The Wrong Trousers, and there's a character in it called Feathers McGraw who I really respected a lot. But I wasn't sure why I respected him. Like, he never spoke, but he just had a certain aura about him that I really liked. And I journaled about it and I realized, like, okay, I thought it was really cool that he always has a plan and that he stays calm under pressure. And these are traits that would really help in sports too. For example, in the wrestling practice I just had a couple of hours ago, when I was in bad positions, I'd kind of panic and start doing the wrong things. But if I just stayed calm, the sequence would have worked out a lot better for me. So even fictional characters like Feathers McGraw has traits that would get you better at sports. But it's a really great movie. I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't. And he was just a really awesome character. Like, you'll see what I'm talking about if you watch the movie. Another thing which Jordan Peterson talked about is not only writing about your cheese, but also your cat. What that means is they did a test on rats, and they put cheese in front of the rats and measured how hard they were pulling to try and get the cheese. And yeah, they were pulling like however hard. They obviously pulled harder when the goal was in front of them. But they did another study where they put the smell of a cat behind them, and they noticed that the cats pulled harder with the cat behind them, or the smell of the cat behind them. So Jordan Peterson just explained, like, not only do you need to have your goals, but you also have to have things that you're kind of running away from. So yeah, like I said, it's good to write about your goals, but it's also really good to write about things that you don't want out of life, or what happens if you don't pursue your goals, or if you are lazy and don't work hard. If you're an athlete, you could write down, yeah, if I don't work hard, then I'm gonna have a really bad game and not be starting and be a bad athlete. And this works for any other goal you have also. But just writing down the things you don't want as well as your goals is good for your motivation. Another good thing is just writing down anything you have anxiety about. Like I said, if you're an overthinker, if you just let it sit in your brain, it's just gonna grow bigger and bigger, versus when you just write it down, it's just, this is what it is, nothing more, nothing less. What I'm saying is, your problems look a lot less intimidating when they're written down on paper and not in your head. Another thing journaling's really good for is just anything you want to remember. Even if you never look at what you wrote down again, it's been proven that just writing it down helps you remember it better. I think that's why when you were studying for spelling tests, you just write it down a bunch of times, just because the act of writing it down engrades it in your mind. But a really wholesome thing to journal about is just memories you want to keep. Like, let's say you have a really nice time with some family or some friends, just writing about it. Whenever you want to relive it, you could just open up your notebook and kind of relive that day. Another really awesome thing to journal about is analysis of quotes. If you ever read or hear a quote that you like, you could write it down in your journal and write about why you like it so much, and write about how it relates to you and how you would implement the knowledge from that quote. That's just a really nice thing to journal about too. And there's many more things to journal about, but the last thing I was going to say is just important things you learn. For me, I watch a lot of Ali Abdaal's videos, and I'm not going to remember everything he says, so that's why I write it down, not just so I remember it more, but also I have like a place to go to it whenever I want to. Like, he's given a lot of really good advice on YouTube and just speaking and productivity. So yeah, just taking notes on it is really helpful for me. But his videos was the main thing that actually encouraged me to start a YouTube channel. So yeah, no, really great guy. Make sure you go check out his channel. He actually does say a lot of really great stuff that you would find useful. And I do notice with a lot of other YouTubers like him, there's sometimes a little bit in your face, but he really seems like just a genuine guy trying to help people. A lot of other ones kind of seem like they're trying to sell you their program, or they're trying to sell you something, but he just seems like, he's really just trying to help you with your goals and whatnot. But writing down important things you learn is really important for athletes too. Like, if there's a technique you don't want to forget, or a play you don't want to forget, or just some things your coach tells you that you really need to remember. But yeah, there's many more things. These are just the ones that I like to do. So another thing I want to share with you is just my favorite time to journal, and that's at nighttime. Before I started journaling before bed, I used to go on TikTok before bed, or just do other forms of doom scrolling. And hyper stimulating your brain and making it very active is counterintuitive when you're trying to get sleepy and unwind for the day. So journaling is a really good thing to do instead. But just making sure you pick a good good unwinding activity before bed is really important. And if you don't trust me, you should trust this guy, Matt Walker. He's a neuroscientist at Berkeley that specializes in sleep. In fact, I actually read his book to fall asleep because, he just kind of gives facts about sleep. And it's not the most exciting, but it's very interesting. So it's kind of the perfect thing to do before bed. I'm not saying his book is boring by any means, but it's just, it's not as exciting as Harry Potter or The Hunger Games. So yeah, I'm either reading or journaling before bed, but my favorite time to journal is just before bed because, it's just the perfect unwinding activity. And with reading, you don't really get to talk about stuff you're anxious about, which Matt Walker also recommends, just writing down the stuff you're anxious about at the end of the night. So yeah, journaling before bed, really helpful. So my last tip is just the best place to buy notebooks. Last week, I was in England and Wales for my cousin's wedding, and I have a lot of family there because that's where I was raised. I left there in 3rd grade, which is the reason why I don't really have an accent. It still comes out sometimes, but yeah, for the most part, I don't have an accent. But when I was there, I visited a lot of museums and a lot of castles and whatnot. But I forgot that in the gift shops in England, whenever you go to these sorts of places, they usually have the nicest notebooks that you could find anywhere, and it's just really high quality and they're really cool design usually. So when I was in Wales, I went to Tintern Abbey, which is a really nice place, and in the gift shop I got this really nice notebook. I also visited the castle and got a really nice notebook there. And when I was at the airport, I got another really nice notebook, and this is from a museum in England, I forgot which one. But I also got a 3-pack of Alice in Wonderland notebooks to give as gifts. So yeah, if you're ever in England or Wales, whenever you go to a museum like the British Art Museum, or if you go to a place like Kew Gardens, they'll have really nice notebooks there, which you should buy. If not, the ones you get from Target or from a college bookstore work fine. But if you are in England, I highly recommend going to a museum or a garden or whatever and picking up the notebooks there. But I just wanted to share something with you that's helped me out so much and that I've been doing for a while. Of course, this video is for athletes, but it could really help out anyone who has goals they want to achieve. But if you are an athlete, especially if you're an athlete doing contact sports, it's really important that you have a strong neck, so make sure you watch this video where you could learn how to get a strong neck. I know personally about this because I just got out of wrestling and people were trying to break my posture the whole time, so I know my neck's going to be sore in the morning. But I talk about the other benefits of having a strong neck, not just for athletes doing a contact sport, but for athletes in general and just people who don't even play sports. So yeah, that'll be a really good video to check out. But thank you for watching. I hope you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.